Welcome to our new webinar. It is Don't Just Rely on Your CV, Part 2. Novel title, because obviously we did Part 1 a few weeks back and a lot of you attended that and able to watch that. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. This is just taking it one step further, keeping you at it, keeping you in there and keeping you positive and motivated. So we're going to crack on as we always do, and I'm going to share my screen, share some slides, and yeah, let's get on with the content. So don't just rely on your CV, part 2, and I'm still David Yeabsley. And as always, if you want to have a conversation with me about anything that we talk about, please do get in contact. Obviously, you're watching this on the YouTube channel, and you can watch part 1 also on the YouTube channel if you want to refresh yourself on those, although I'm going to do a little review. And yeah, on there is a lot of interviews that I do with a lot of people that I know, that I've contacted with in recent times, and have got an interesting story to talk about their careers and their future proofing themselves. And as you all know, I'm the author of the book Future Proof Yourself, and another one is coming out very shortly, so look out for that. And yeah, along with LinkedIn, I'm sure we're all connected on LinkedIn, but if not, please do that. Along with Zoom, it's now one of my favorite friends. And yeah, please also find out more information about me and what I do at davidyeabsley.co.uk. It's all on there. So let's crack on. Let's go fishing. We talked about this last time, that it's the concept of if you're not out there with your rod, your line and your bait, we're not going to catch any fish. And if you're not out there with your CV, with your LinkedIn profile, with you getting out there and talking to lots of people, which is your bait, you're not going to have lots of good conversations and people can't show an interest in you. So it's very important we use this concept of let's go fishing. Let's get out there on a lot more regular basis. So we're just going to do a quick review of what we covered last time on part 1. And that was about creating some quality reflection time. And we also talked a lot about the art of successful networking and having great questions to ask people, to build relationships and to build conversations with people that we'd like to, and finding new opportunities and what is actually realistic out there at the moment. And perhaps we do need to look at different ways to market that we discussed a lot about. And yeah, what's my industry and target companies going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months? Plus also one of the big questions is, what is the value that I bring? Am I a really good return on investment? And our ability to be agile and able to pivot. And we talked a lot about, new mentoring, new ways of thinking, new ways of working. And that's really, really important. And yeah, those routes to market. So we covered that all on session 1. So if you want to go and have a look at that, please go and do so. The 4 top tips that we came out of that session was create that quality reflection time. Remember, you are your company's sales team. Well, you are a limited company, and we talked about that concept on part 1 in a lot of detail. And yeah, procrastination isn't an answer. If you're not out there, if you don't do it for yourself, who's going to do it for you? And that constant saying will be very at the front of what we talk about today. And yeah, looking at different routes to market, we've got to be a lot more creative, and they're the areas that we covered on part 1. A lot of you that I've spoken to since then, that we've had our conversations, and I'm always happy to have conversations with people. That helps me to develop new ideas and new ways of thinking, as well as hopefully giving you lots of great advice and tips. But look, most of the things that people said to me is that, yeah, I've got to get out there networking. I'm very timid about that. And the other thing that we sometimes can be a little bit timid about is selling ourselves. And I'm going to talk more about that today. And I've got to get myself out there. I've got to get out there fishing. And they were the real key 3 main points that most people have spoken to me since they doing part 1, that they really took away from that session. So what are we going to talk about on part 2? Well, here we go. We've sort of done the what was learned from session 1 and what we've applied. Keep at it. It is blooming tough out there, and it is tough going. So we've got to keep at it. We've got to keep ourselves motivated, and our business and sales and marketing team motivated. Plus, we've got to be upskilling constantly all the time. We need to be organised, and we need to organise your day and your well-being, because if you don't, who's going to do it for you. And this is really, really important, dealing with difficult questions and how we can practice, write and use video to help practice and deal with difficult questions. And this is a really important, I'm going to talk to you about your skeleton in your closet. How we build confidence. So, how do we build our stories and we feel comfortable about talking about ourselves, which, as we said on part 1, was a bit of a challenge, but we need to continue to focus on that. And we're going to continue to talk about, don't just talk about your experience, think about the solutions that you can bring. So that's what we're going to cover. So let's crack on. Keep at it. It is blooming tough out there, and you may feel that you're, sort of, wading through mud. It's never ending. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, and it's tough. Yes, it is. But we've got to keep cracking on with this. So how can we help ourselves through tough times? First of all, we need to start to think about that this is perhaps our new full-time job career in looking for opportunities. And you think, oh, great, is it? Yes, it is. But we've got to think about and start to have that mindset and think, yeah, I'm going to be tuned in and I'm going to get really good at promoting myself. And I'm going to come out of this better than when I went into this situation. Start to think about what activity make the biggest impact. There's certain things that we like to do, but there are things that make the biggest impact. It's a bit like, sort of pleasing the cook at Christmas dinner. I always feel you've got to eat your the vegetables you don't like so much at the start, and you've got to sort of please the cook and just eat those, just get them out of the way, and that make the biggest impact. Then everyone's happy. And it's a bit like at work. Sometimes we can procrastinate on doing things that we like to do instead of doing the things that make the biggest impact. So work out what makes the biggest impact. Keep your LinkedIn activity going, connecting with people. And we talked a lot about what to say on our LinkedIn profile last time and the headings to have. And keep changing and keep developing it, keep working out what works best for you, and keep our activity going out there. And talk to more people. You're not on your own. As we said, as a limited company, you cannot just deal with this situation on your own, and you can't now. So you do need help, and you need to help others, and they need to help you. And it's finding those people that work. And we talked a lot about that last time with regards to networking. And create another way to do tasks, freshen it up, sit in different rooms, sit outside, go to areas or perhaps places that you now open up that you could perhaps use. And I think that's very important, so we don't get bogged down in a routine that we find quite claustrophobic. I spoke to someone yesterday. He's quite a he's a director of quite a large company. I'm not going to mention who. And I said, how you doing? He says, oh, I'm just sat here and the walls are slowly closing in. So yeah, I just sort of had a conversation with him about how to freshen up and change your routine to keep things fresh, because it is tough. And please don't take all this personally. There's lots of people applying for the same jobs. You're more than capable, and it is just sometimes luck whether we get our CV goes through, although we can do more with our CVs to make sure that if organisations are scanning them and using for keywords, there's things like that we can do to help out. But please don't take it personally. It is tough, and that's why you need good people around you, and perhaps people going through the same situation as you to talk to. So it is tough, so we've got to keep going. When the going gets tough, keep going. Really, really important. So how are we going to motivate your business sales and marketing team? And that's you. So how are you going to keep that motivated? Because you think, oh, have I got to talk positively about myself? Have I got to get on the phone and act all positive and bubbly? Yes, because if you don't, who's going to do it for you? So focus on small wins. Perhaps a new contact, some new potential that you get, and write it down, make your lists, and make sure that you follow up on those. Set yourself targets in terms of calls, emails, applications, LinkedIn contacts. I'm good at this. I set myself lots of different targets. I try not to do them all in the same part of the day, because after a while it's like, ooh, get bored. When I'm out there prospecting and trying to get new business, which isn't always easy, but slowly starting to find that things are improving, as is the job market on the whole. Talk to people who create positivity. Yeah, the ones that don't, just leave them alone and say, yeah, you go and talk to yourself. I need to go and talk to people. And yeah, have them on your list, on your network list, and say to them, look, you're happy for me to give you a ring. And meet up, go for a walk, go for a cycle, go for a coffee. Or even if it's just sat in a park, you know, a bench, just having a chat, or whatever environment you think is suitable. Really important you create and keep those people going. And start to think, what can you learn about yourself, and what can you learn from this life experience? There was a group that I spend quite a lot of time talking to. We meet up once or every couple of weeks, and we sort of said to each other, how can we come out of this situation in a better position than when we went into it? And I think it's a really good question to ask yourself. How can I create some positivity for myself out of this situation? Could I learn new skills so it feels like it's worthwhile? I decided to write another book that I'll talk more about in the next coming weeks, because I wanted to feel that I've done something and I've achieved something. Plus doing these webinars and also doing lots of other YouTube videos and content that I've been writing, I feel that I've done something worthwhile. I'm a person who always likes to feel that they've achieved something. So understanding that about yourself and your motivating values is really, really quite important. So start to think about some of those concepts and what can you do to help your sales and marketing team to sort of feel invigorated and positive. Being organised is very important. And as I always say, it's a bit like sport. If you're going to play sport and you want to be good at it, you might have some great natural skill, but if you're not fit, you're not going to be particularly good. And it's a bit like in the working world. If you're not organised, you might have some great talents, but organised is just like being fitness. It's just a basic. The more organised you are, the more effective and successful you're going to be. And it's a bit like sport in terms of fitness. The fitter you are, the better you're going to play. So list your daily activities and weekly activities, plan them into your diary, create a schedule if that works for you. Don't just be a mess and just move from one thing to another. Oh, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. Get some structure in there. Set a time period, how long you're going to work each day, and keep to it. Mental and physical burnout isn't good. I'm sure we all, as we talked about feeling vulnerable in the past, it's very important we look after ourselves. So work out how, what your daily routine, when you're going to start, how does that fit in with other people perhaps you work with, or just, yeah, do you work better in the mornings, afternoons or evenings, and understand those types of things. Building regular breaks and vocational activities. So get to keep a book on the go, keep watching great films or good series or anything that chills you out. Obviously exercise and things like that. Borrow next door's dog and go for a walk if you haven't got a dog. And also, this is a really important aspect. Explain to people who you live with what your plans are and working times are so they can give you support. And especially if your chap's watching this, we're not very good at this bit. Explain to them how you feel. And I've tried to do a lot more of that, and I feel better for it. When I felt vulnerable, when my business sort of went all upside down and everything else, and oh God, I've worked, goodness knows how many years to get to this, and then I started talking to other people who'd perhaps lost their jobs, and they said, yeah, well, I worked 30 years to get to keep this job and develop my career, and it was all gone. So we can all feel very vulnerable, and it is important that we share. And if you've got a good friend you can see is having a bit of a tough time, just sit them down, look them in the eye. How you doing? Do you want to have a chat? And I think it's the best thing you can give someone. And it's, yeah, we all need it. We all need to help each other. As we said, it's like the networking. Be a giver, don't just be a taker. And don't just sit there and offload to people. No, this is crap, that's crap, and they're bad and they should be doing this. Ooh, remember what we can control. Really important. So organise your well-being. Don't feel guilty about taking time out. Set a contract with yourself. Now, this is important, not just for job hunting, but I think career in general. When I left school at the age of 16, I told the story on part 1 about going to work for a life insurance company. But I always promised myself I would never work weekends. Why? Because I just adored playing football and going to watch it, and most sports. So I always said to myself, I will never work weekends. And even running my own business over the last 20 odd years, I very rarely ever work weekends. And people say, oh, I'm going to spend all weekend doing this. I look at them and go, why? Surely it's a definite, well, it's my definition of success, never having to work weekends because I want to go and enjoy them. But set a contract with yourself. Quite often in my working week, work very long hours on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, a little bit less Thursdays, not so much Fridays, and try not to work weekends. If the weather is bad, perhaps at a weekend, I will work, mainly because I know that perhaps during the week there might be some nice weather. That's my way of thinking, and they're the contracts of myself. So set a contract with yourself what you're going to do. So at the moment, I'm trying to get out there a lot more during the week. Normally, I just do sport at weekends, cycling and things, but I'm trying to do more during the week, meeting up with people, going cycling, playing golf and things like that, and doing some other activities. Set your contract, really, really important. And when you go back into the working world, you may like just to sit down and remember what I've said here about, perhaps I need to set a contract for myself. In the past, I've worked so many hours, and really have they been healthy for me? We could debate that all day long. Take in switch off time. I can hear my wife telling me, look, just switch off, just put it away now, just yeah. And I'm getting much better at this. Reading, watching great films, certain very strange comedy programs I like watching, walking, cycling, and all the other things that I've spoken about. Really, really important. You can't be on go all the time. Learn to relax. Meditation, mindfulness. I was just looking for that word, and I realized it is the next one on the slide. Mindfulness, go and get some mindfulness books. I'm not going to make any recommendations. This stuff is great, end of story, and it does get you thinking totally different. Really, really enjoy all that stuff. Set another challenge. And I've sort of felt a bit lack of energy because I haven't had any challenges this year. Normally I'm doing some silly cycling event and doing lots of training towards it. And I thought, right, come on. And I've just read a wonderful book called The Salt Pathway about a couple that walked around the southwest coast of Cornwall, Devon and Dorset. And a bit of Somerset because they go to start in Minehead. And yeah, very inspiring. I won't tell you the story because I don't want to ruin it. Just go and get the book, The Salt Pathway. It really does get you thinking. And that got me thinking. My daughter says, oh, you need some more new challenges. So I'm sat there now with my little notebook thinking what challenges I need to set myself, because that really does motivate me. Your well-being is essential for your future. Invest in it. And it's like myself, if I don't invest in myself and my well-being, my clients aren't going to sort of see me as inspiration and positive and think, oh, don't want to deal with him anymore. He's a right miserable old what's it. And also family and friends and etc. etc. So you're no good to others if you're no good to yourself. So start to think about that. Now, let's just move on to this subject. This is really, really important, that when we do go for interviews, sometimes we get a challenging question. And I don't know if you've ever watched Dragon's Den. And people go on Dragon's Den and they do a wonderful pitch, and some of the pitches are just superb for to get investment into their business. And I think, oh, that's a clever product, that's a clever service. Oh, I like that. And they do this wonderful pitch. I think, oh, they're going to invest in this. And then the dragons always ask one particular question, and the participants always say, oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. And it's always about the financials, how much that they valued the company. And they always get it wrong. Well, not always, but 95% of the time they get it wrong. Please, if you're ever going to go on Dragon's Den, please understand the financials. You know they're going to ask you. Now, remember that, and let's move to the next slide. Sometimes we get some difficult questions about our past, something on our CV, perhaps a job that we had to leave and we didn't want to leave, or perhaps something went wrong. It's what we call a skeleton in the cupboard. And quite often we don't like talking about it. But the thing is, if you've got some good interviewers, they will unearth your weaknesses, and they will go and dig and they will probe and they will ask you questions on it. So you know what I'm going to say? You've got to prepare for it. This is really important. You may not like having to discuss it. You may get defensive and feel agitated about having to talk about a certain subject because it wasn't your fault or whatever, or the background story, but you've got to deal with it. So, 4 tips. Think about how they could possibly ask the questions. about why you had to move, or why that ended, or why that something went wrong. Think about how they're likely to ask those questions. Write them down. Write down the potential answers. So you can now start thinking how you're going to answer those questions. They're going to come up, no different to Dragon's Den. Then what I want you to do is to get your laptop out or your phone out, use video conferencing or just video yourself, and think about your voice and tone of voice and your body language. Think about when you're answering that, and I want you to actually physically practice this in front of a screen, because a lot of our interviews are still going to be done via video conferencing, and I want you to think about where you're sat and all those types of things. But I also want you to think about your tone of voice and your body language. Do you suddenly start to become a little bit defensive? And you normally have two people interviewing you. One asks the questions and one watches you for these reasons. And if they see that you're struggling on something, they're going to probe a bit further. So deal with it confidently and competently. Really, really important, difficult questions, because we all may have a little bit of a skeleton in the cupboard. So know and practice the answers. Don't, oh God, I knew you were going to answer me that. That's no way to deal with it. And these little marginal gains can make a big, big difference. So practice your difficult questions. Okay, build confidence, your story, and talk about yourself. Now, I'm not sure that many of us are going to write an autobiography. It'd be a nice idea. I'm always saying to people, I mean, my book was a lot about my personal stories of my observations. So it is a little bit, but it's not really, you know, this is David's story. So not many of us are going to do an autobiography, but so let the world know about your stories. Why not? And I think this is really, really quite important. We've got to get better, one at storytelling, one talking about ourselves and presenting ourselves. And I'm going to just go through some tips to reconfirm the importance of what you can do. Turn your CV into a PowerPoint slide deck. So get 15 slides, put your CV on it, titles on different pages. Go and get some great photos, get some good sayings, create some stories. I'm not saying you'll necessarily present this, but this is a really good exercise for you to get used to talking about yourself. And yeah, try it out in front of somebody. Do what I'm doing here on Zoom. Send a little meeting request yourself and go, oh, been invited to a meeting. Click on it, share your screen, record it. If you need any help with this, just give us a shout or ask someone who knows how all this stuff works. And yeah, just do what I'm doing, just record it. And then you can look back at it and think, okay, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. Plus also it's good practice because there is more and more interviews happening using video conferencing. Write your stories and experiences of your career. There again, the director I was talking to yesterday, he's a white card. I knew him, gosh, how many years ago? A long time ago, about 25, it must be about 25 years ago. And he was a bit of I just always liked him. It just always made me laugh. And if he watches this, you'll always continue to make me laugh. And he can sort of have a bit of a rant and has quite strong opinions about lots of things, but he does it in a really lovely way. And I said, please write all your stories down. Mainly because as we get older, we sometimes forget our stories, but also it gives us new things to talk about constantly. And when you're writing something down, you think, oh, I could write about that as well. So just literally you've done your PowerPoint, now this is your Word document. Just get a Word document and then just start writing. One per page. Then after you've got 20, 30, you'll be amazed how many you get. It's a really good exercise and you'll find it really liberating and enjoyable. Yeah, really good. And then, yeah, perhaps you want to write down your ideas and opinions down about certain things. And you may want to blog about them or talk about them, or even if to moan and offload, write it down. It's a great exercise. But at least you then start to articulate and then you read back through it. And you think, oh, perhaps I could change that. And you may want to start doing a regular blog. We talked last time about sort of posting stuff on LinkedIn and creating more content out there to show that you're engaged in your environment. I would always try and like to talk about positive things. So if you're going to moan and offload, sorry, that should say offload, not load. you know, do be mindful of that. But yeah, you might like to, or you might like to video yourself and perhaps set up your own YouTube site. Who knows? Oh, there we are. It's there at the end. Give it a go. If in doubt, give it a go. It's always my motto. And this is a really good exercise. I'd have to say this has helped me. Now, I've been presenting for years and years, which I've absolutely loved and really enjoyed. It have been standing up in front of anybody, doing all sorts of different things. But actually writing and put it to video has actually helped me feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more positive, and yeah, you know, sort of more content in getting my messages across. Really good exercise. Keep practicing it. I haven't mastered it yet. Still things I do slightly wrong, which I'm sure somebody might look at this and say, but I'm giving it a damn good go, and I'd encourage you to do the same. So we talked a little bit last time. Don't just talk about what you've done in the past. Talk about the solution and the value you can bring for the future. Now, it may be that you designed mobile phones in the past. Yeah, great, well done. That's what you came up with. But you need to think about what's the next generation of mobile devices. So it doesn't matter what career you're in, what you've done in the past is great. It builds that credibility, but we've got to continue to think about the value and the solution that we bring, the value you bring. Why should they invest in you? Explain why you. Remember, the competition is out there. It's huge, the competition. How can you assist and improve their business, your value proposition? Spend some time thinking about this. And if you're not sort of used to these sort of sales and marketing terms, go and find someone in your network who is marketing and sales and say, look, what are all these benefits that I can give people, and start to understand these terminology. Because remember, you are your own business consultant. You are your subject matter expert. And you've got to talk positively about yourself. If you can't do it, well, you know the saying, it's at the top of the screen. And why you're a good return on investment. And these are really important areas that we need to continue to go. And there again, doing some of the activities that I have spoken about, I think will certainly help you along the way. Okay, so my 4 tips went totally wrong there. So practice and write your stories. Really, really, really important that you focus on that. I'm not really doing very well with these. Create small wins, that says. So constantly create little things and go, yeah, got a couple of wins today, feel good about myself. Explain to other people what you're going through. There again, absolutely vital, and keep at it. Keep getting the fishing rod out, keep getting the line out, keep getting the bait out. Get out there. Obviously, you've got to go and fish in different ponds. I go into different markets, and you know, and not just relying on your CV. But yeah, you've got to keep at it. Really important. So as always, I've had a few problems with my slides at the end, but as always, do please get in contact if you've watched this and you've got any questions. Please do get in contact. Please, if you haven't seen version 1 or you want to refresh yourself on don't just rely on your CV, part 1. You can find it here on the YouTube channel, along with all my other videos. Each week I post a new subject on finding opportunities, future-proofing ourselves. It's all about our personal development, along with all the interviews that I do. So I hope you can like this, you can share it, and if you know that someone else perhaps is going through a bit of a tough time and might find this useful, please spread the word. And it was always great to hear from you. And I love it when I get those emails saying people, oh yes, I found something, I've got a new opportunity, and generally I'm really pleased for them. And I'd love to hear from you that, you know, when things do start to improve and you do get some success and you get some new opportunities. So keep at it, because if you don't do it, who's going to do it for you?